more than 42 million Americans do receive these benefits, 1 in 8 people in the United States. So this is a big deal for a lot of folks. So let's talk about the latest developments today.
Something absolutely unprecedented just happened that has Donald Trump genuinely panicking about whether he can finish his term. 29 federal judges, an entire appellate court panel, just unanimously rejected a ruling that would have protected Trump. And here's what makes this devastating. A lot of those judges were appointed by Republicans. This wasn't some liberal court making a partisan decision. This was judges from across the political spectrum all agreeing that Trump doesn't get special treatment anymore, that the era of courts bending rules to protect him is over, that he's going to be held accountable like anyone else. And the signal this sends is massive, because Trump's entire legal strategy depends on friendly judges giving him favorable rulings, depends on delays and procedural games, depends on courts protecting him from accountability. But when 29 judges unanimously say we're done with that, when Republican-appointed judges join Democrats in rejecting pro-Trump rulings, that strategy collapses completely. Before we break down exactly what happened and why this matters so much, make sure you subscribe. We're giving you the real analysis without corporate spin. Let me walk you through exactly what happened because the details show you how thoroughly Trump's judicial protection is crumbling. A lower court judge, someone Trump himself appointed, made a ruling that would have shielded Trump from legal exposure in a major case. Trump probably thought he was safe, thought his appointee would protect him, thought the fix was in. But then the appellate panel reviewed that ruling, 29 judges, and they threw it out, unanimously, said the lower court got it wrong, said Trump doesn't deserve the protection that ruling gave him, said they're starting the case over and applying normal legal standards instead of giving Trump special treatment. Think about what that means. Trump-appointed judge tries to protect him. Entire appellate bench says no, rejects the protection, strips away the favorable ruling, and does it unanimously so there's no dissent Trump can point to. No argument that this is just partisan judges going after him. It's the entire court agreeing. And legal commentators are calling this extraordinary, saying they've never seen an entire appellate panel unanimously reject a lower court ruling designed to help a president, saying this represents a fundamental shift in how courts are approaching Trump cases. That judges across the political spectrum are united in refusing to give him special treatment anymore. Share this with everyone you know because this connects to Congress ramping up impeachment pressure at the exact same time. Because Democrats aren't just threatening impeachment if Trump keeps breaking laws, they're building the actual case for removal, filing articles, gathering evidence, preparing for the scenario where Trump's defiance of courts becomes so extreme that even some Republicans agree he has to go. And now you've got courts and Congress simultaneously closing in on Trump. Courts rejecting his legal maneuvers, Congress preparing removal proceedings, both branches of government pushing back against his authoritarian behavior. That creates a vice that's squeezing tighter every day. Here's why the 29-judge decision matters so much. Trump has spent years gaming the court system, filing endless appeals, getting friendly judges to delay cases, using procedural tricks to avoid accountability, and it worked for a long time. Cases got delayed, trials got postponed, Trump avoided consequences while he ran for office again and won. But that strategy only works if courts cooperate, if judges give you the delays you want, if appellate panels uphold favorable rulings from lower courts. The whole system depends on at least some judges being willing to protect Trump. And what this decision shows is that protection is evaporating, that judges who might have been sympathetic before are done, that even Republican-appointed judges don't want to be associated with protecting Trump anymore, that the judiciary as a whole is rejecting the idea that Trump gets treated differently than anyone else. And once that happens, once courts stop protecting you, your legal position collapses incredibly fast. Because Trump faces multiple serious cases, criminal exposure in multiple jurisdictions, civil judgments worth hundreds of millions, ongoing investigations into his conduct. All of it has been delayed or stalled through legal maneuvering. But if courts start moving those cases forward, if judges stop granting delays, if appellate panels reject attempts to shield Trump, then everything hits at once. Trials proceed, judgments get enforced, legal consequences arrive, and Trump has no way to stop it. That's why you're seeing serious speculation about Trump potentially stepping down. Not because he wants to, but because staying in office while courts and Congress both come after him might become unsustainable, might create so much pressure that resignation becomes the least bad option. Now, I need to be clear, Trump stepping down is still speculation, hasn't happened, might not happen. Trump's shown he'll fight to the bitter end rather than admit defeat. But the fact that people are even discussing it seriously, that political analysts are gaming out the scenario, that shows how much Trump's position has deteriorated. Let's break down what Trump is actually facing right now. On the legal front, he's got courts that are done protecting him. The 29-judge decision proves that. But it's not just that one ruling. Courts across multiple jurisdictions are pushing back, rejecting his attempts to delay cases, denying his motions for special treatment, moving trials forward despite his objections. In New York, courts are enforcing the fraud judgment, seizing properties, rejecting Trump's appeals, making clear he's going to pay what he owes. In Georgia, the election interference case is moving forward despite Trump's attempts to kill it. In federal court, judges are ruling against his emergency power claims and his attempts to avoid oversight. All of that creates compound legal pressure, multiple cases proceeding simultaneously, multiple courts rejecting his defenses, multiple trials approaching. And Trump can't be in all those courtrooms at once, can't fight all those battles simultaneously. Something has to give. On the congressional front, Democrats have filed impeachment articles against multiple Trump officials. Pam Bondi for corrupting the Justice Department, Kristi Noem for enabling ICE violence and obstruction. Others are being targeted, and the implicit threat is clear. We're coming for your cabinet members now, but you're next. Because the impeachment articles against officials establish patterns of conduct, obstruction of justice, defying court orders, using government power for Trump's personal benefit. All of that applies to Trump himself. So when Congress impeaches cabinet members for those things, they're building the case for impeaching Trump on the same grounds. Make sure you're subscribed, because here's where it gets really interesting. Democracy protection groups are organizing around the argument that Trump defying courts is itself an impeachable offense, that you don't need to wait for criminal convictions, that a president who repeatedly ignores judicial orders, who attacks judges, who undermines the rule of law, that's enough. That's grounds for removal even without criminal charges, and that argument is gaining traction because Trump has defied multiple court orders, refused to comply with document production requirements, slow-walked enforcement of rulings against him, publicly attacked judges who rule against him, threatened to remove judges he doesn't like. All of that is documented. All of that shows contempt for judicial authority. If Congress decides that's impeachable, if they vote that defying courts warrants removal, Trump has no good defense. Can't claim he didn't do it because the record is clear. Can't claim it's not serious because undermining the judiciary strikes at the foundation of constitutional government. The case writes itself. And Trump knows this. Knows that losing Congress in the midterms means facing impeachment from a House that actually wants to remove him. Knows that courts aren't protecting him anymore. Knows his legal options are disappearing. That's why there's genuine panic in his circle about whether he can survive the full term. Now let me explain why resignation might actually become Trump's best option, even though it seems unthinkable. Because Trump staying in office means continuing to face mounting legal and political pressure, means fighting courts that are united against him, means dealing with Congress investigating and potentially impeaching him, means watching his presidency consumed by scandals and legal battles. But if Trump resigns, he could potentially cut a deal, maybe negotiate some kind of immunity agreement, maybe get assurances about prosecution, maybe escape to a friendly country that won't extradite him. All of that becomes harder if he waits until courts force accountability or Congress removes him. So there's actually a perverse logic where resigning sooner protects Trump more than fighting to the end, where cutting losses and leaving on his own terms beats getting dragged out, where preserving some ability to negotiate beats having zero leverage. Trump probably understands this even if he won't admit it publicly, probably knows that his position keeps getting worse, that time is not on his side, that every week brings new court rulings against him, new congressional pressure, new cracks in Republican support. The trajectory is clear, and it doesn't end well for Trump if he stays. But resignation requires Trump to admit defeat, requires accepting that he lost, that his enemies won, that he couldn't fight his way out. And Trump's entire identity is built on never admitting failure, on always claiming victory, on fighting to the end no matter what. So even if resignation is strategically smart, Trump probably can't do it psychologically, can't make himself quit, has to keep fighting even when the fight is obviously lost. That's who he is. That's how he's wired. Which means we're probably heading toward the scenario where Trump fights until Congress removes him or courts force him out, where he makes Republicans choose between protecting him and protecting themselves, where the end comes through impeachment or judicial enforcement rather than resignation. And that's going to be brutal. For Trump, obviously, but also for Republicans who have to decide whether to stick with him, for courts that have to enforce accountability against a president who won't comply voluntarily, for the country that has to watch this constitutional crisis play out. The 29-judge decision is just the beginning. It's the judiciary signaling they're done protecting Trump, done giving him special treatment, done letting him manipulate the system. And once that signal goes out, once courts are unified in holding Trump accountable, the legal walls close in fast. Trump can't delay anymore, can't game the system, can't count on friendly judges saving him, has to face cases on the merits, has to defend himself against evidence he can't refute, has to obey court orders he can't avoid. And when you combine that with Congress preparing impeachment, with Republicans starting to break ranks, with Trump's support eroding, the pressure becomes overwhelming. Something has to break, either Trump's resistance or the institutions trying to hold him accountable. And right now it looks like Trump's resistance might break first. Think about what happens if more appellate panels follow this lead. If other courts issue similarly unanimous rulings rejecting pro-Trump lower court decisions, that creates a pattern, shows this wasn't one aberration, shows the judiciary as a whole is unified in refusing to protect Trump. And that pattern destroys Trump's remaining legal strategies. Can't forum shop for friendly courts if appellate panels will just overturn them. Can't delay through procedural games if higher courts accelerate timelines. Can't avoid accountability through legal tricks if the entire judiciary is watching and pushing back. Trump's lawyers are probably telling him this, probably explaining that the legal landscape has shifted against him, that courts aren't going to save him, that he needs to prepare for losing these cases. But Trump doesn't listen to lawyers who give him bad news, fires them, replaces them with people who will tell him what he wants to hear. So Trump probably surrounds himself with yes men saying, don't worry, we can still win this, we just need to appeal higher, we just need different arguments. And those yes men are wrong, but Trump believes them because the alternative is accepting he's beaten, and Trump can't do that. Bottom line is this: 29 federal judges just unanimously rejected a ruling that protected Trump. Entire appellate panel, including Republican appointees, said Trump doesn't get special treatment. Legal commentators calling it extraordinary and unprecedented. Signal from judiciary that era of protecting Trump is over. Courts across multiple jurisdictions pushing back simultaneously, rejecting delays, denying motions, moving cases forward, creating compound legal pressure Trump can't escape, combined with Congress preparing impeachment, Democrats filing articles against cabinet members, building case for removing Trump himself, democracy groups organizing around argument that defying courts is impeachable offense, that Trump's attacks on judiciary warrant removal, that Congress doesn't need criminal convictions to act. Pattern of Trump defying orders and attacking judges is documented and undeniable. Trump trapped between courts that won't protect him and Congress threatening removal. Legal options disappearing, political support eroding, Republican allies starting to break. Trajectory clear and doesn't end well if Trump stays. Resignation might be a strategic move, but Trump psychologically can't admit defeat. Heading towards scenario where Trump fights until forced out, where institutions have to remove him because he won't leave voluntarily, where constitutional crisis plays out because Trump refuses to accept accountability. 29-judge decision is signal that process has begun. This story continues. Stay tuned.